people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hello AARP, Amanda Pyle here, coming to you with another edition of My Crafty Corner, where today we're going to be making a super cool, super easy scrap wreath. This wreath can be made with any scraps that you might have laying around from other projects of the past. They can be fall, since we're airing this in November, but you could also be making one in the fall for Christmas. I think this airs in early November. We're in the heart of football season. Just so happens that my family are Bears fans, and my daughter goes to a school, Letty Brown, where their mascot is also the Bears. So I thought for my fall wreath today, for my first one, I gave it a shot and I did some cool traditional Bears colors. So again, this is a fall scrap wreath. You could just have a lot of scrap fabric laying around. Anything wool works, cotton. It can be two-sided or one-sided. Just kind of depends on what you want the final look of your wreath to appear as. So again, I went with some traditional Bears colors here. Get that a little bit closer. We've got a tiny bit of blue and then a lot of orange and white popping off in there, and then of course some browns. And this is the view of the wreath from the front, but if you turn it around, you'll notice that there is an intricate pattern and design in the way in which we tie that fabric. So today we're going to learn how to do that. I was really surprised at how simple this wreath was to make. In fact, I got started on it, and once I showed my 11-year-old the pattern, she was able to take off and go with it and finish this wreath up herself. So this is going to be a great project to do with grandkids, people that you just enjoy hanging out with, having, you know, a cup of hot cider, laying around, watching TV. Do with your caretakers, do with your grandchildren, do with your sisters, your mothers, whoever. And then of course, this is a low cost project because we don't need much to get started. First thing you're going to need is one of these wire wreaths. Now this is a pretty small wreath, I would say 14-inch wreath. I was able to find this at my local dollar store for $1.25. So what a score. Looks like this. I would definitely try to find one of these metal wreaths that have these little sections, because it is easier to count how many spaces or how many pieces of fabric that you put in each one, and it's easier to kind of keep it to where everything is aesthetically pleasing but also even. For instance, I know that I have 10 pieces of white fabric in each one of these little sections, and I have 10 sets of my plaid ribbon. And that'll make a little bit more sense later as I get to explaining things. So first things first, about $1.25 for your wire wreath. You could also go somewhere like Hobby Lobby and probably find a much bigger one. They also have some that are in different shapes. For instance, I've seen some that are pumpkin shaped or even witch hat shaped. But I would start with a round one just to get your feet wet, and then step it up later if you want to do that. Next thing you're going to need is some fabric strips. These strips need to be about 1 inch wide by 9 inches long, okay? So 1 inch wide by 9 inches long, and I did cut all of my strips to fit that, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well today. So I'm going to actually make the same wreath utilizing some of the same fabric because I had a lot left from my first one, but I'm going to add in a different color, and I'm going to make the white the star of the show instead of making the plaid the star of the show. And then we're going to see if that gives us just kind of a different looking wreath. I'm trying to push this one a little bit more in a fall direction, but you could find anywhere from 2 to, I would say, 5 different patterns of fabric if you want. Your total wreath, if you do the 14-inch wreath that I have here, is going to take about 1 yard of fabric total. So in this case, I wanted to make sure I had enough. My local fabric store is not open every day and quite a ways from my house, so I bought extra just in case. And I bought 1 yard of each, and I ended up using about half of each of these colors. So that tells me I need about 1 full yard to be able to make my wreath. So far we've got some fabric, about 1 yard total, a 14-inch or 12-inch, whatever you can find, round wire that looks like this wreath. And then you're also going to need a cutter. The cutter is actually essential. You could use scissors. You can also tear certain fabrics. But I think that the cutter, as many strips as you have to cut, this baby is kind of essential. I actually got this one also at the Dollar Tree for $1.25, and I'm super surprised at how well it looks. I got a backup one just in case it lost its sharpness in the process, but it took me the whole way from start to finish. So this is definitely essential. Something else that you're going to need is some sort of ruler or some sort of, I'm using my Cricut papers here that's going to be able to tell us where we can arrive at those 1 inches that we need. We need 1 inch by 9 inch. So we're going to need something that kind of measures that, keeps our strips as close to straight as we can. I don't want you to get bogged down too much on that though, because a lot of times you'll get your fabric, and depending on what the fabric is, like some of mine is wool, it's real stretchy, it doesn't even up, it doesn't line up just perfectly. But this is a great wreath that's not really going to matter that much. Again, it's a fabric scrap wreath, so it's meant to be made with leftover scraps that you might have laying around anyway. And if you're a big crafter, I'm sure that you have enough to just get yourself started. So I'm going to switch out the camera. We're going to learn how to cut our strips first, and then I will explain to you how to get them tied in. Let's get started. All right, the first thing I need to do is go ahead and map out those cuts that are going to be 9 inches long. So I've got the folded part, I've got 1 yard of fabric here in this brown, and I've got the folded part at the top. And the first thing I want to do is just kind of mark those. So I'm going to use my little Cricut sheet here, follow it over to 9 inches. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark that at the 9 inch. Okay, and then I will do exactly the same thing and go on down another section. And that's going to use up pretty much most of my fabric. I might have this little extra piece here on the end that's about 1 inch or 2 wide that I may or may not use there. We'll just see how the cuts end up lining up. And then I don't really need this bottom Cricut paper, but it just kind of helps keep me in the lines where I like to be. So whatever you can do to help keep that kind of nice and straight is good. Then I line up, I've already made my marks here, so I'm going to line up my Cricut sheet to use just kind of as a guide. Use my cutter. And then go ahead and finish that out. And now I've got one of my pieces of fabric ready to go and to cut into 1 inch strips. And then we're going to go ahead and do exactly the same process with our other piece. And again, I only got 1 yard in the brown. When I got 2 yards, I had a lot more cuts. So I'm going to line that up. Again, I'm going with my 9 inches across, which I've already marked here. Straighten that out. And honestly, this cutting was the hardest part of this project, folks. I'm telling you, it's super easy. My daughter and I sat on the couch, watched a TV show, and made our first wreath together, snuggling with the dog, and had a great time. So it's really laid back, really cheap project, really fun to do with anybody, any age. All right, and then cutting our last one. I'm sure a lot of you crafters out there, if you're already crafting, have a lot better tools for this particular part, but whatever keeps your cuts straight, I think you're in business. Don't go out and buy a lot if you're not going to be doing a lot of crafts. All right, now that we've got that, we can get rid of that bottom one. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my fabric, and you'll notice that I've got it still folded because you can cut through easily 2 layers. I'm going to turn my fabric, put down my sheet again, and now it's all about cutting those 1-inch strips. I'm going to start with the open side actually to the left. Go ahead and line that up. Flatten it out as much as I can. Grab my second Cricut mat, and I'm going to use these little squares here to try to keep me into those 1-inch strips. And so I line it up on my Cricut mat. And this Cricut mat will not, it will absolutely cut through. So this is just one that already had cuts in it that I've been using. But they definitely sell mats that you can cut on and that are meant for this. This is just what I had already at my house. Keep that nice and flat. And we've got just a couple more strips to cut. And I'm just going to go all the way across into 1-inch strips so that I've made a bunch of 9x1 strips, which seem to be the perfect length and width of fabric to be able to make this project. And you know, you might not buy in yards if you're actually using up your scraps. So you just need to make sure that they can be cut and that they can fit the mold. But you don't have to buy new fabric. Just have to have a process of getting it into these 9x1-inch strips. Okay, I picked them all up. Those are looking fantastic. I'm going to put them aside. I think those are going to look great with my other colors. And I'm excited to see if just adding one kind of dark pop really changes the appearance of my wreath. I'm sure that it will. All right, open side to the left. And we go and we continue, and then we're already almost done with most of this half yard. Like I said, you only need 1 total yard, but you got to remember that the different kind of fabric that you choose to make your scrap wreath with matters. For instance, the bear's wreath that I showed you that I have done, those fabrics are kind of like a stretchy wool. And so when you tie them, they take up a lot more room on your wire wreath than, say, like if you did, you know, that thin kind of poly cotton that most of the fabric is when you go to buy it. So it's probably going to take a lot more if I were to do the wreath in this brown, because it's not like a stretchy wool. It would take a lot more if I did bigger parts of the wreath in the brown. So depending on the fabric, you may need more or less fabric to complete your wreath. Okay, so there we go. All of our brown strips. I'm going to finish cutting the rest of my brown strips, and then we'll return and I'll show you how to put it all together. All right, I'm back. I have all of my fabric scraps cut and ready to go. This is definitely a process that you want to take care of before you're ready to get started, because you don't want to have to stop and do cuts again. So again, about a full yard total, give or take, depending on which fabric that you're going to use. These 2 fabrics are a bit more stretchy than this one, so I know that if I were to use this for more parts of my wreath, I would probably need a little bit more of that. All right, let's talk about how to get started. You need to come up with a pattern depending on how much of each color you want to see in your wreath. So I knew when I made this one that I wanted to see mostly the plaid because I just think it's really pretty. It has a fall feel, but it also, you know, has the traditional Chicago Bears colors. If you were to turn this over, you can kind of see the pattern woven into here. And this looks really intricate and difficult, but it's honestly so easy. But basically for every 2 ties of the blue and orange plaid, I did 1 tie of the white. And so today I'm gonna see how my wreath lines up if I do more of the white and then equal parts of, I think I'm going to do the most white and then equal parts of the plaid and the brown alternated in there, and we'll see. After I do 1 stretch and turn it over, I'll be able to see if I like those colors and if I need to do an adjustment before I keep going. All right, so first things first, you'll notice that there are basically 4 bars to your wreath. Your first tie is going to be the outside 2. Your second tie is going to be the middle 2. Your third tie is going to be the inner 2. So first you need to decide kind of what your color pattern is going to be. I want mine to be a lot of white. And so I'm going to first start by threading my white through the 2 outside bars. And then I'm just going to do a double knot tie. And again, you're going to see really quickly that this takes up a lot more space than a lot of other fabrics might do because it is more bulky and more chunky. All right, next I'm going to do the plaid, and I'm going to see what this looks like, making it kind of the star of the show. But I actually like to tie in my bottom 2 first. So I'm going to do the brown next, and then I'm going to tie in my middle piece. And then we're going to push it all down towards that first rib, and then we keep going. We grab our white, we go with our outside 2 bars, then we grab our brown, we go with our inside 2 bars, then our middle 2 bars, and then we push them all down. And we're going to do 1 whole bar, 1 whole section in the video today, so you can kind of look, see what the pattern looks like, and then I'll finish the wreath up and we'll come back and see the finished product. But it is really, really important to stay on the mark as far as how you tie those pieces in. You want to make sure that your pattern is the same every time. And I can't stress enough like how great of an activity this is for somebody who likes puzzles or likes to work their mind or needs a little bit of things to keep their mind busy, but something that's kind of low activity. This is a great project for that. So once you tie them in one way, you just got to keep with that pattern. So my pattern goes white on the outside, then brown on the inside, double tie, plaid on the inside too. And you're always tying it over 2 bars. Push, push, push. All right, and when you only have this little bit done, it's kind of hard to see how it'll all look, but we can start to see it coming together. Don't worry if these pop out. They're very easy to just pop right back up to the surface. And you can see just how good that white spreads out, and that just has everything to do with what fabric it is. But it looks like our process is on point here. We're going in the right direction. So I'm going to keep this going, and then I will return back and show you guys the look of this wreath when it's all put together. And then we'll also talk about some different accessories that you could add to embellish your wreath. It doesn't just have to be, you know, the scraps on there. You could add, for instance, some floral if you wanted to do that, or in this case, we're making a fall wreath, so I went out in the yard and I found some acorns, or not acorns, pine cones, and I'm going to tie those to a little bit of hemp ribbon, and then we're going to tie those into the center to bring a little bit more of a fall feel. So I'm going to keep tying, and then I will be back shortly. Alrighty guys, welcome back. So here we have our second wreath. You can see there's just a lot more brown coming out. Took on a bit more of a fall feel, I think, than our first one. I'll show you comparatively kind of where they went. Take a step back. So utilizing the same basic colors, just adding in a little bit of brown, whereas this one here has a bit more of an orange. This here would also look cute with like a big blue bow on it, but I'll show you some different accessories I had in mind. This one here I thought would look really cute, something free that you could do. I've just tied on here a couple acorns onto some kind of burlap string, and there is a section in my wreath where I just left one little piece of fabric out, and you can kind of see that better from the back that I've got a little bit of a hole here. I'm just going to thread my string through here. See about where we want that. That looks pretty cute. And then we'll tie that on. Just gonna cut my string, tie in those acorns, and again, I just literally walked out back and found those on the ground. Pine trees everywhere here, so pretty easy find for free. But again, you could do a big bow there if you wanted. And I have just tied that in, and now I'm just gonna literally tuck it under, and you can see the back pattern as well on here. And then we turn it around, we've got these cute little acorns just hanging down to give it a neat little fall feel. Something else that you could do, even put in something like a flower if you wanted at the top, or even at the bottom, or again another big bow. But I'm just going to keep it simple. Total altogether, this project was $1.25 for my metal wreath. My pine cones were free. Any string or ribbon could be used. I had this laying around actually from another one of our Crafty Corner videos that we did, so I just utilized that. And then I think for my fabric altogether, like I said, I went to my local fabric store, so it was a little bit pricier than somewhere like a Walmart fabric or like a Hobby Lobby fabric where you can usually get it on sale. So I think today for a half yard I paid $7.50, so my full yards were around $14, but I ended up not using them all. So I would say total we probably did this project for about 25 bucks. So not too bad, makes a super cute gift for somebody. But also, you know, I was thinking my husband has like a man cave, and this would look really cute hanging on his door because he's a super big football fan. And something else that you could do on this one, I bought these letters here, and I was thinking about painting them. Let's see if I can get my camera to go down. I was thinking about painting these letters and putting Go Bears onto this little block that I found at Walmart. And then after I have that on there, I was thinking that that one would look super cute just on the bottom of it, because it also has kind of a football shape. So I might glue that in later, or even tie it into the top. So just a couple ideas. They also look great plain all by themselves. Again, give it a shot with some Christmas ribbon if you want. You could choose anywhere between 2 to 5 different styles of cloth to make your patterns. You know, if you pick something that's really vibrant and like this plaid, then your other colors, you might want to keep those a bit more plain and simple, just so that you don't overdo it. But yeah, that is today's project, which is called a scrap fabric wreath. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I will see you back soon. Next video we'll be making a milestone